Folks, what if I told you all that there is an alleged Mormon ripoff of Rick and Morty? Yes, because, that's the timeline we're living in now. Allegedly. Some guy was like, you know what this cartoon on Adult Swim really needs to make it truly perfect? Jesus. The show is called Saving Me, and it's basically a science fiction sitcom about a guy named Bennett Bramble, an elderly scientist billionaire with a bad attitude. Well, Bennett here is the future version of himself, young Bennett Bramble, aka our supposed Morty. Using the power of time travel, oh, it's like that, huh? Adult Bennett tries to teach his young self the importance of being a good person, trying to fix his own past mistakes by steering his past self into making better choices in his childhood. It's kind of like Back to the Future, only now with more religion and peer pressure. The only issue with this plan is that Bennett is not the best teacher, and his actions backfire almost immediately, as chaos ensues with him trying to get everything back under control. Wow, that never happens in time travel shows. Going into this cartoon, I was feeling pretty bitter. Look, I've had my fair share of religious cartoon shows, and yes, I'm still working on the Caleb and Sophia video, Stop Asking. I know it's been about 4 years? It's more like a documentary at this point, but it will come out soon, trademark. Look, I'll give you all a sneak peek. For some reason, I decided to put a rap battle into the project. Don't ask me how this makes sense. But yeah, here it is. It's epic Christian rap battles of history.
There's Moses. The name is Moses, and I was chosen by God. He wove his power throughout my body and set his plans into motion. This notion was covered in Exodus 5:1, not a tale. I was there when you rapping with me, son.
But as far as Saving Me goes, I was skeptical, but I wanted to give it a fair shake. So let's find out if Saving Me is just another load of religious crap, or perhaps something more. But hold it! Ad time. This video is brought to you by FlexiSpot. Tired of old busted chairs? Getting sick of the only options out there being the $4,000 alien chair or the Walmart $75 special? One of these chairs is super expensive and the other one will wreck your back. And possibly your posture. I've been there, trust me, I still feel it. I know how you're all sitting at home. Even right now, I can see through your window. I see you're slouched over like a shrimp. I can see it. Whether you're relaxing or trying to get work done, nothing ruins productivity more than discomfort, and FlexiSpot is here to change that. The C7 Max is a versatile solution to all of your seating needs. With a robust and sturdy construction, these chairs are built to endure any kind of seating application. It has multiple seating modes, such as office mode, which includes adaptive lumbar support and locks your backrest in place. The cushion includes a thick latex layer, providing comfort for long sitting sessions. And hey, you won't need to provide any other cushion for your tush because these chairs come with the ability to adjust the height of the backrest, adapting to every one of your short or tall selves with ease. And when you just want to kick back and relax for a bit, you can kick this chair into relaxation mode. Adjust the 5D armrest to your liking, then kick up the footrest to keep your legs relaxed without having to cut off your blood circulation by resting your knees on the desk. I know it happens, alright? I've done it, stop judging me. Most other major seating brands don't offer these kinds of footrest options. Look, I was surprised to actually see it was even an option at all. So FlexiSpot has got you covered when you just want to freaking relax. And with a 30-day return window and a 5-year warranty that includes direct replacement for damaged parts, your investment is risk-free and covered by a reputable player in the game. Black Friday is the name of the game this November season. So if you're looking to grab the best discount possible, then head on over to FlexiSpot.com and use my code to save an extra $50 on the C7 Max chair. Again, I highly recommend it. This chair is now my new main chair in my office. Thanks to FlexiSpot for sponsoring this video. And now, back to the video. So who is behind the creation of Saving Me? Well, that would be Aaron Johnston, a Mormon and one who is very publicly religious. He even involves morals from the Book of Mormon in the writing of Saving Me, as quoted in the BYU Daily Universe. Johnston took his role developing Saving Me very seriously, stating, quote, "It was a joy for me to create content about the Savior, Jesus Christ, that invited people to come closer to him," end quote. And he has definitely taken that message to heart, folks, even 2 years after this interview. Since October 2022, Aaron Johnston has been the executive producer and creative director for the brand entertainment division of Chick-fil-A. So you know that entire recent news about the streaming service they're doing? That was not an elaborate joke. They're actually making one. You might even seen their Christmas-themed short a few years ago, Stories of Evergreen Hills. The Snow Globe, which was written by Aaron himself. I mean, yeah, I don't really get it, but hey, he's definitely got a consistent brand here. Time travel seems to be a theme he's really into between this and Saving Me. Now, Saving Me was animated in Flash and is for BYU TV, the ultimate network programming channel for a Mormon audience. Like, you can watch this stuff for free right now. Turn off this video, do it right now. Don't turn off the video. At its core, the show, according to the creator, is about the idea that everyone makes mistakes they wish they could fix, and who people become as adults as a result of all the small, everyday decisions that they make in their youth. You know, that's a pretty interesting concept to center a show around. I honestly think there was a lot of potential here, but upon watching the show, the execution couldn't quite reach the ambitions of Johnston's creative vision. I totally believe that he had nothing but the best intentions for a concept this sincere. But personally, I think Saving Me flew a little too close to the sun for its own good, resulting in a series that is safe but bland and unchallenging. Yeah, it's like my cooking. No, that's not true. I make a good steak. A mistake. Before we get into the specifics of what exactly went wrong here, let's explore some of the things that are pivotal to understanding some of the core elements of the show. Now, there are clearly religious motivations behind the show's creation, and that could mean that a lot of the show's messaging is attempting to reflect central beliefs rooted in Aaron's faith, which, makes sense, and I don't see that as an inherently bad thing. That was the case for legendary creator Phil Vischer of VeggieTales. And we all know that show is a bona fide classic. I'm getting down with silly songs with Larry. I'm a pirate who don't do nothing. But sending a message about loving each other and becoming better people to young people is absolutely something that someone in his position should do. I just think his execution could use some work, and that some things left much to be desired when it came to really exploring areas that might be more difficult when you are aiming for a Christian audience instead of a general audience. Saving Me had a rocky path to production, with the creator not having any experience in animation and instead a background mostly in marketing. And yeah, gonna be real here, the writing on this series suffered as a result of his inexperience. And while there are certainly moments that stand out, the overall structure is still pretty uneven. The creators of Saving Me clearly wanted in on the trend of an old man and a young boy going on sci-fi adventures like in Rick and Morty. But if you watch these shows back to back, a fundamental difference appears when comparing them. The reason Rick and Morty is funny, and the reason their dynamics works, lies in its ironic tone, as well as its quick-witted, self-aware, and time-relevant writing. And Szechuan sauce, apparently. Szechuan sauce? That's how you say it. Is it even funny anymore? Is anything from the 2010s even funny anymore? I feel like that era is gone. It's all cynicism now. And now most of the humor centers around poking fun at Rick's cynical and apathetic worldview, followed by Morty's more naive, curious, and corruptible nature. But for Saving Me, it's presented with a straight tone, with most jokes being very predictable and easy to follow. Which, by the way, I know one show's adult, the other one's for kids, but still, as far as dynamic goes, Saving Me feels very stale. Like, the dialogue feels very old school, and it's not as quick or timely as Rick and Morty. And that's not a mature rating thing, that's just a good writer thing. It's a very how do you do, fellow kids kind of show, but without the irony or any subtlety to the satire. They make constant jokes about how people on the internet are sheeple, or about nerds living in their mother's basement. Which, hey, I just want to say, nothing wrong with that. I used to live in my mom's basement. I also lived in my father's basement for a bit. It is a rite of passage. Those who know, you know. Now, I'm not going to dogpile on this show, but I am going to end up spoiling a lot in this review to give it a full, review. It's a pretty fast watch, with only 20 episodes split between 2 seasons. So if any of this seems appealing to you, do your own research and come back if you don't want spoilers. Otherwise, let's get into what really does and does not work about saving me. Starting from the beginning, the theme song is very boring and forgettable. It's giving the Animorphs theme meets church summer camp vibes. You know, honestly, I would watch a show about the Animorphs finding God. Though as a guy who was raised Christians and went to a Christian school, the Animorphs were never allowed in our scholastic bookstores. They implied evolution. That's a no-no. Also, did you all know that Animorphs is about child soldiers? Crazy stuff. Watch this video if you want to know more. Okay, back on topic. The plot of Saving Me is pretty rough, even from the start. Adult Bennett is committed to going back in time and focusing on, solving basic arguments that happen between siblings? You know, things that are normal for children to do? The goal is probably for young kids to watch this and not want to fight with their siblings as much. But it was pretty wild how in episode 1, they go so hard on the fear-mongering by basically saying, you will become a sad, lonely monster if you fight with your siblings. It's a little intense. Also, the butterfly effect be damned, apparently. Adult Bennett is basically sinking all of his resources into going back in time to stop his younger self from not paying attention to his sister. Doesn't that seem a bit excessive to you? If he wanted to go back in time to stop a bomb or something, sure, I get it. But he was kind of a dick to his sister when he was 9, so I guess that's why I'm so depressed and also a monster? Yeah, newsflash, dude, siblings argue and they fight. It's a part of growing up. I just don't think it's worth warping the space-time continuum over. But hey, that's just me. Now, if you killed your sister, that's different. We'll talk about that here in a bit. The first season follows a pretty specific formula. Adult Bennett has an issue with some existential thing that his younger self did or did not do. So he makes it his mission to go back in time and fix it. In episode 5, he has trouble being proud of his father. In episode 6, he struggles with his anger problems. And the solution to this is saying nicer things to his sister? You know, I guess instead of going to therapy as an adult, it's easier to go back in time and change things. Sure, whatever. Just go off, King. Who cares? Then in episode 7, he hates sports. Not a specific sport. I mean, all sports. The general idea of sports. It's really weird. In episode 8, he has beef with not showing his mom enough gratitude, and the list goes on and on. There are also multiple plots happening at once, which is not a bad thing if done right, but I feel like it all runs together sometimes. Not a good way. The storyline about the secret agency Bennett's parents work for is kind of cool, but it feels like they really stretch them thin. In episode 4 of season 2, they have a boys' fishing trip. And while adult Bennett is trying to change that, the sci-fi headquarters is dealing with a sea monster, while the girls are also having a trip. So many subplots are competing for screen time that they don't get properly fleshed out. The focus is constantly switching between A plot, B plot, C plot, and sometimes D plots. I'm not sure if this is to cater to the short attention spans of kids nowadays or whatever, but it's a little bit much to be satisfying. And as far as the dialogue goes, yeah, I'm not going to sugarcoat it here. A lot of it feels just like placeholder dialogue.
You know, I think this bracelet is really helping. I can have willpower.
Bracelet for the win.
I genuinely don't know if middle schoolers would find these jokes funny or outdated. Probably the second of the two. The transitions to each segment are fine, but they're so predictably cheesy. It's obviously not my sense of humor, because my sense of humor is amazing and the best. But it also feels too bland and safe to really be able to grab a young audience's attention, which is really, really hard to do nowadays. That's another thing I'm actually confused about. The show doesn't seem to have a specific age demographic for their audience in mind. At the end of season 2, they have a villain with the line, "You can't fight your way out, but you are no use to me dead. Let's start again, shall we?" There are so many awkward jumps between family-friendly themes with cheesy writing to lines about killing. Like, don't get me wrong, I know this is intended for a religious audience, so it's not that outlandish for kids stuff to have villains that make threats like this. But I can't figure out who this show is for. Who's the demographic? Is it elementary kids? Middle schoolers? High schoolers? They are all not going to respond to the same show in the same way. There are, however, some clever plots and bits occasionally. Like Bramble's invention of a bracelet that helps him avoid technology being usurped by criminals that want to use it to turn off security cameras. Oh, okay. Or in episode 10 of season 1, they actually have a pretty good joke. There is clever writing in the show, but it feels anchored down by cheesy one-liners that just don't really add much to the story or characters. Just placeholder dialogue to fill the space in between scenes. I do, however, love the bit with Bennett and Robo-Eddie. Like, Eddie gives him a hand-powered toothbrush that was surprisingly cute. A lot of the dialogue between adult Bennett and Robo-Eddie is very charming, oddly wholesome and fun, with some of their exchanges being the funniest parts in the show. I did not expect the relationship between them to be so endearing, but it does grow on you over time. One thing I could have lived without, though, was the parents being a little too, familiar with each other. Like, for an animated show with religious ties, they sure do make out a lot. I never saw that with Bob and Larry. This happens the most in episode 8 of season 2, and sure, it's great that the parents love each other and show it, but yeah, I was getting kind of uncomfortable sitting through all that. Now, there is a lot of heart in the messaging of the show, but the line delivery they have when coming close to a breakthrough still feels stiff. There's a few standout wholesome moments and good scenes that feel earned, like in episode 8 of season 1, where adult Bennett breaks down about how he doesn't want to keep traveling back in time, and how painful the experience is for him. Then you got young Bennett asking older Bennett if he and mom are okay in the future. And older Bennett has a breakdown about how he messed up, and how he is only doing this because he doesn't want it to happen, because it keeps reminding him of what young Bennett has and what he, as an adult, have taken for granted. It was a surprisingly real moment that felt pretty earned. He feels like he has to keep going back, or he will become a monster, even though the only thing he is stopping is his 9-year-old self from being kind of a dick to his sister. Seems a little bit hyperbolic to me, unless he, killed her or something. But it's not that kind of show. If it was, 10 out of 10. What kind of fell flat, though, about this moment is the fact that afterwards, it didn't feel like anything really changed. The show, at least when it comes to the emotional stakes, follows a reset formula that makes it feel like all their character development from each episode could fall apart if they want to have a fun plot line that requires them to be mad at each other again. It matters until it doesn't matter, and only once it's inconvenient to the plot. Also, there is a tracker on adult Bennett's wrist that monitors his progress on becoming a better person. Now, they later do a callback to it at the end of the second season, where adult Bennett is reminded by Eddie that if facts and data are the only things that can sway him, his bracelet should be proof enough that he's becoming a better person. But honestly, I don't really get his motivation here. What is it exactly that he's trying to change? He shows some remorse and self-loathing by calling himself a lonely monster a few times, but then there's an episode where he goes to the future and is married to best girl Penelope, but feels disgusted and basically shuns the idea of a romantic partnership. So what do you want, adult Bennett? You don't want to be alone, but the one future where you are apparently happily married, you go back in time to stop it from happening because girls are icky? You can literally pick and choose your battles by traveling to fix the past, and suddenly, holding hands with a woman is too much for you to handle? What would Rick say?
What people call love is just a chemical reaction that compels animals to breed. It hits hard, Morty, then it slowly fades, leaving you stranded in a failing marriage.
I think one of the most frustrating things about Saving Me as a series is that it tends to leave a lot of open-ended questions by the end of the show. And not in a way that leaves things open to interpretation, but more that they left enough loose threads about how the time travel stuff affects future circumstances too vague that it's an unsatisfying resolution. Here's a few examples that I could not ignore from finishing it that left me really confused. First of all, 50 years into the future, where adult Bennett lives, there are moments where adult Bennett goes outside, and it looks really dark and dingy, almost like a dystopian future. Now, are they implying that he caused this? Were there global ramifications to his decisions? He claims he is a monster a few times, but honestly, he just seems like he is minding his business alone in his place. And if he really was the cause of this global issue, I really wish they got into it more. It seems like they want to go the Back of the Future route. But I don't get how being mean to his sister is bad enough to lead to full-on dystopia. It's 1984 up in here. But if this is a fear-mongering religious show, I guess that's one answer. A lot of guilt is on the surface without a lot of core digging. And if they're trying to go for a more butterfly effect kind of impact, it reads more as the Mormon version of Scared Straight. Like, that seems needlessly harsh for this kind of programming. There are clearly themes of guilt that they are at least attempting to explore, like the guilt adult Bennett feels for whatever mysterious thing happened between him and his mom. Also the guilt he feels towards his own perceived personal failings when it comes to the other members of his family. Not being nicer to his sister, not bonding enough with his siblings, being rude to his father, and so on. There is a responsibility that he feels towards making amends. And the only way he knows how is by going back in time and fixing these little moments that, I guess in the grand scheme of things, lead to the apocalypse or something. But they don't get that deep into it. Most of the story feels very surface level when it comes to the real emotional exploration that could be done here. I honestly think the episode where they travel inside of his mind when he's trying to appreciate his mom might be the best one. It was really gut-wrenching and had a lot of potential to frame the show in a new light. But they kind of let it fade into the background alongside the other lessons he supposedly learned. Another odd thing that has me curious about the inner workings of this world is the fact that in episode 10, young Bennett being a bad boy in the past apparently led to the police storming the house of adult Bennett. But in a past episode, adult Bennett said that if a small change happens in the past, adult Bennett doesn't wake up with new memories. But the timeline is still affected, I guess? How does this life of crime happen that leads police to tracking him down? Yet he doesn't have any memory of it changing. Kind of feels like a plot hole to me. Now, a lot of the comedy wasn't landing, especially in the beginning. But it's not atrocious. I've seen worse, it's just dull here. The actor for adult Bennett is kind of the only good, interesting part in the beginning. The actors grow on you, especially Eddie, but in the beginning, I didn't really like the choice to have adults playing kids. That's always weird to me. Johnston explained his reasoning for this direction during an interview with BYU TV Insider, saying, quote, "So one of the decisions we made early on in the show was to cast older actors to play children. There's an understanding that comes with adulthood, that comes with experience. We wanted all of our characters to be authentic and to really capture both the innocence of childhood, the regret that we feel at our mistakes, and the sincere desire to get better." End quote. Aside from all that, I think the cheesy writing might just be what is making me so biased against it. These are all great actors, but the combination of factors, from the writing to not just going with kid actors instead, made their performances only so-so. So overall, I think Saving Me had a lot of effort put into it. And while I did find it entertaining at times, it's not a show I would recommend. Who'd have guessed? Another Christian cartoon that isn't that good. But hey, credit where credit is due, they tried. Also, that comment about it being a Mormon Rick and Morty ripoff, yeah, I do see it with the designs, and there might be some inspiration, but I would not call it plagiarism by any means. Just coincidental at best. But for the show itself, there are still some pieces of it that stood out to me based on merit. The actors for Adult Bennett and Eddie are a great team. Also, Penelope killed it, and her story should have been more explored. All of her bits were great. Even the cheesy ones were sold so well because she has so much earnest charm in her performance. I will give them credit for this too. There are things I'm left curious about with unresolved world building that makes me want to know more about how everything works here. But the way the show resets after major milestones are met, when the whole plot of the show is centered around making moral progress, yeah, just makes it feel more stiff to me. Like they gave up too quickly before really having a more potent message to get into. There was so much potential to make a realistic impact. For a show about consequences, I would have loved to see a more BoJack Horseman style approach when it comes to the dilemma of accepting versus rejecting the past. But I guess with time travel, it's harder to think about that when you can literally change the past. But the reset still felt unsatisfying. It doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. It's a kid's show, so obviously they could lighten it up. But having lingering consequences and having to sit in the reality of those moments, realizing that some things will change and others will progress, not for the sake of a bit, but for the sake of human connection and growth, that could have been interesting. You know, actually, now that I think about it, giving BoJack Horseman a time machine, that'd be a bad idea. Would it be a great show? Yes. 1,000 times yes. But that animated horse could not be trusted to handle the space-time continuum, let alone most motor vehicles. I'm certainly curious about Season 3 though. But I don't have much hope that anything cool will happen beyond a few clever jokes every other episode. Here's hoping they learn from those mistakes from their past seasons and find a happier future for all of the characters involved. See, I made a time pun. Isn't that funny? It's a joke. But hey, those are my overall thoughts, folks. What did you all think? Tell me down below in the comments, and I'll see you all next time.